Says, I'm a little bit fast, but I'm faster than the clock on the wall. Of Chincoteague's regular meeting, if we could please stand for the invocation, remain standing for the pledge.
Kind of have it follow. Many blessings, Lord, and Lord, as we think the world's on fire, Lord, we see these three beautiful young ladies that just walked in, Lord, and we know that they're in your hand, Lord, and we thank you that we also are in your hand, Lord. Lord, during this election time, let us not put faith and trust in some kind of candidate, Lord, we think it's going to make everything all better, Lord, but let this country return to you first and most of all. Lord, be with all of our southern neighbors, Lord, and all the trials and tribulations they're going through. Lord, we also pray for those that are going down there and volunteering their time and their money and their efforts, Lord. Lord, we see so much evil, Lord, but we also see so much good, Lord, and we just thank for all the volunteers, not just in this town, Lord, but the people that are going down there and just doing all they can do to help those people. Lord, we pray for the storm that's coming to Florida, Lord. Just put a hedge of protection around those people, Lord. And Lord, we pray for each and every employee we have here, Lord, and we thank you and praise you for them. Lord, every volunteer, Lord, or for our companies, or EMS, or our police departments, Lord, special hedge of protection around them as they go in harm's way. Lord, we just praise you and thank you for all we do. And Lord, may we make decisions, Lord, that are pleasing to you. And Lord, just go with us and guide us and direct us in everything that we do. For we ask these things in Jesus' precious name. And for his sake, amen.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. All right. So I take it Bill's not phoning in, right?
No, sir.
Gotcha. All right. First thing on the agenda is public comment. First on the list, Ms. Farley.
Good evening. Patricia Farley, 3243 Lisa's Lane. Just a couple of comments. First of all, thank you to both Denise Bowden and to the town office for posting on Facebook the schedule. It's really important because people are asking all the time, when's the meeting? Not that they come, but many people do watch it. I know that next week there's going to be a public hearing on the proposed ordinance regarding political signs, but I wanted to just make one brief comment. I think it's a great idea, and I thank the ordinance committee for coming up with the timing on that. I think what's missing and what concerns me is that there's no definition of what a political sign is in the old ordinance or in the changed ordinance. In the First Amendment section of the sign ordinance, it gives by right signs that have to do with political causes, which could certainly be confused with other signs. So I'm not a lawyer. I don't know how you phrase things, but it seems to me that instead of just political signs, it should say something like political campaign signs, because anyone could say, well, I'm supporting a political cause. I think it's a great idea that we do limit how long they're up, and I hope also that it includes all forms of signs too, billboards, cardboard, flags, banners, whatever, because even though I have 4 in my yard, I know we all get really tired of seeing them. So thank you. That's it.
Okay. Ms. Nees?
Paula Neese, 6417 Canal Lane here in Chincoteague. And something came up in the Eastern Shore Post, and I'm hopeful that we're all aware of it, but I wanted to make an announcement about it if I could, that the Accomack County is having their fall cleanup. And the first time I heard anything about it was this issue of the Eastern Shore Post dated the 4th. This is occurring next Saturday, October 12th. So I'm wondering in the future if we can come up with another plan or if it could be posted. I posted it on Facebook today so that people would be aware, but that's one thing. So just because people may be watching, it is the fall cleanup on October 12th from 8:30 till 4 o'clock, and that came from the Accomack County Department of Public Works. You can call them at 757-787-1468 if you need more information. But I'm also asking, at one point I guess I had asked someone about the possibility of council considering a community sign where information like this can be shared. I know we have one at the fire department that they use frequently. There are signs at the elementary school and the high school, but they're not really covering all of the community events that take place. And this is kind of important. It's a cleanup. It's a time that people can get rid of old tires or land waste, and you can't always do that, and it's free. So that being said, I just would wonder that you could consider doing that, and also to put in a plug that the tentative date for the spring cleanup is May 20th. In case people don't get this one, maybe they can get the next one. So thank you for listening.
Donna?
Donna Leonard, 6415 Leonard Lane. I've been contacted by several people to see if I could do anything about the piece of equipment, the green piece of equipment at Brianna's Park. It's a sensory sight and sound. And they tell me it's been broken for 2 years. Maybe it's the cause of a battery. And I asked if they contacted the town, and both of the people who contacted me said they had contacted the town. So I just want to give everybody a heads up, Wes and Mike, if somebody could go over there and see what happens to be wrong with that thing. For it to be broken down for 2 years is not good. Of course, I don't go there and touch, so I wasn't aware that it had not been working. Also, the comments were that they need some mulch. There's cement showing that's the base of some of the equipment, and they felt that was a bit of a safety hazard. And I know we've talked about mulch being put in there before, but they sent me pictures that show places where there is pieces of cement coming out of the ground. The real reason I'm here is to beat the drum for the same thing I've been beating the drum for about 35, 40 years now, which is our situation on Assateague Island. I went to the public information meeting last week. I do not think that the Fish and Wildlife Service advertised it very well. The only way I found out about it was because there was a post on Facebook from a volunteer. So I went. It was not well attended, which of course if it's not publicized, I can understand why it's not well attended. But I feel very uneasy with the current plan that the Fish and Wildlife Service gave us 8 years ago. I was kind of hoping the time would run out and they'd have to redo it. But I was told that the plans or the rules changed in 1997 and that they no longer have to do their every 10-year master plan. I do miss the communication between the Fish and Wildlife Service and the public. I know that the mayor and the town manager have the occasion to meet with them to find out what's going on, but I don't think we, the taxpayers, are kept informed the way we used to. The old heads, the good old boys, I will call them, Brad Talbert, Donald Leonard, Jim Bott, anybody that was with the town 30 years ago, as well as involved with the Chamber of Commerce. We used to have community leaders meetings where they kept us informed of what was going on. Anymore, I find that I don't even know the refuge managers because they don't become part of our community the way they used to. So for about 35, 40 years after working as the concessionaire on Assateague, I came to the conclusion that Assateague was being managed by the wrong organization under the Department of the Interior. In 1937 and 1938, I'm not sure exactly which one, there was a bill proposed to make Assateague a national park, and that bill did not pass. 1943, we were made into a wildlife refuge so that we could attempt to save the snow geese. They did a great job on that. The snow geese have come back to the point where they don't really care for them to visit anymore. And as you know, we can see many more snow geese on the mainland and the farm fields there than we do at this refuge. So the reason that this refuge was set aside in the first place is not needed today. So I'm here to ask the town of Chincoteague to take an aggressive move. And I know some of you don't agree with me, but I would like to see the town ask the Department of the Interior to evaluate the needs of Assateague Island for today. Fish and Wildlife Service is never going to be one who has people anywhere near the top of their list. The National Park Service has a proven record. The Maryland end of Assateague has plenty of parking lots, camping on the beach, dogs on leashes, beer in your cooler. Lots and lots of things are allowed on the Maryland end of Assateague that will never be allowed here, simply because we're people. And the rules and regulations of the Fish and Wildlife Service make it so those activities are never going to be allowed. When you go to the Maryland end of Assateague, you can drive your four-wheel drive on miles and miles and miles of beach, all the way to the Maryland-Virginia line. I do believe a good question to ask is, what does the Fish and Wildlife Service do that the National Park Service can't do and probably can't do better? The National Park Service can manage the resources, they can conserve the habitat, they can make it a place where people can be there and have use that is just not allowed here because of the regulations. Just to give you an example of one of the regulations that I find is very taxing on what can be done, is that people are allowed 1 mile of recreational beach. So whenever they do their plan can only be for 1 mile. And in that, you herd people like cattle. Is our beach crowded? Yeah, because you're trying to get all those people into 1 mile of beach. So I'm not opposed to moving the parking lot, even though when we said go north, I thought that they would start where we are and go north, not completely do away with what we have, what we've known, and totally relocate, building a new road up the service road. And I've talked to Mike and other people in the committee before about the fact that behind the wildlife loop there are acres and acres and acres of Phragmites. Where they're going to put the parking lot is a natural meadow, one that they have not gone in. I did learn at this meeting that there have 4 restoration projects restoring wetlands. One of those places that they're going to restore wetlands is directly behind the dune area between the dunes and Swan Cove. All of the areas that were once impoundments, now called moist soil management areas, are areas that the Fish and Wildlife Service manipulated. They went in and changed the habitat. It was pristine habitat. And they did that because that's what they did in every refuge across this country. And you can find it well documented that those are now seen to be an error. They are a mistake. They cannot handle these freshwater ponds that they put in there. I dare say that you can see as much wildlife on Chincoteague as you can see when you go around the wildlife loop. The impoundments don't work. They are way overgrown. Keeping the ponies out of them, grazing them, is probably one of the reasons that they're overgrown, because they have fenced out the ponies from going in North Wash Flat, South Wash Flat, Swan Cove, Wildlife Loop. Anyway, back to the Wildlife Loop. Wildlife Loop is also something else they did, very cookie cutter. And that was their way of saying, oh yeah, we are allowing people here. We're going to give them a place where they can walk, where they can ride their bike, where they can do their car. I think the Wildlife Loop would be a great roadway into a new beach parking lot. One way in, around the right side of the Wildlife Loop, one way out, without having to build a major road to the north and taking those acres and acres and acres of Phragmites, which are very obvious. Again, the National Park Service is a fine example that they can manage a seashore and they can manage it better than the Fish and Wildlife Service does. So again, I ask that the town council have some discussions about this and see if the Department of the Interior will consider an evaluation of Assateague and its needs and its uses for 2024, not 1943.
Anyone else? Got some public here that didn't sign up. I'll entertain a motion to adopt tonight's agenda.
So moved.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All righty, moving on. General Government Staff Report, Mr. Talbot.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Talking about the new sewage collection system that we've started here. Construction documents for the new 2.1 mile sewer collection system were completed in September. We will be having a pre-bid on October 10th with that here at the town office. Bid day will be November 12th, and we intend to recommend a contractor to council at the workshop meeting in November. This gets us in under our deadline of December 31st to encumber the funds from our ARPA grant. The contract between Wes and our consultant, they have come up with 26 contractors that will be notified about the project. These are contractors who should qualify to do the job, and that is for the Eastern Shore, not just Chincoteague, but for the Eastern Shore. It's quite a number of qualified contractors they've come up with, so they've done a very good job there. Once the project's bid and we know what it costs, then we'll be able to go and work in earnest towards finding out what the cost of connection and the maintenance costs will be for each business that wants to connect along Main Street and Maddox Boulevard. Moving on, VML Brian has been requested to serve a second term as Virginia Municipal League's representative to the Governor's Advisory Board on Emergency Medical Services. Brian he's given you periodic reports along the way, but he's done an excellent job, and I see this more regularly than council and the public does. VML is very happy with the job that he is doing on their behalf, and he's also representing the Eastern Shore and the island of Chincoteague very well as well. He'll be serving another 3-year term, and we're looking forward to that. The traffic signals in town were switched a couple weeks ago. They're now progressed so that when you come up to them, you can go north and south in an expedited manner, unlike the summertime when we prioritize traffic east and west along Maddox. South Main Street, as you know, we've been working with VDOT to design a sidewalk that takes up at BB Road where it leaves off currently and goes all the way to the harbor. This route has some issues. Most of them deal with the fact that some of the road sections have very little upland on either side, and we're going to need to cross some wetlands or mitigate it or something to that effect. Right now, VDOT's approach is to put boardwalk over top of the wetland areas instead of having a sidewalk on grade. That has a few problems that I pointed out to them that they might not be aware of because they're not from the area, so they're working through those now. But they continue to work on this design, and we continue to let them on our behalf. Chincoteague Center, Mary Esther's still doing a great job of bringing in events. The Plein Air Art Show, which has been going on for some time, was held on September 14th. 62 exhibitors this year. By all accounts, the Plein Air had a great show, and as you can see by the pictures, it was very well attended. There was a few weddings, again very well attended, and again a certain number of ladies doing some art classes. They finished up the month with Village Neighbors Bingo, which they do once a month. Village Neighbors does that as a fundraiser. Looking ahead to coming months, they did the indoor yard sale on Saturday, very well attended. Everybody did very well. The presenters did very well. Island Roots will be there on the 14th. Kiwanis Blood Drive on the 21st. They do that every other month. And we'll have a Meet the Candidates Forum on the 22nd. There's also 2 weddings planned. The Island Community has sponsored bingo on the 28th. We're also planning the first annual Center Holiday Craft Show on November 23rd, and they're looking for vendors. So if anybody's interested, please see Mary Esther. Trolley ridership was done for September, which you would expect it to be at the end of the season. And this is a mistake. We will be running the trolley on Friday and Saturday this week, not Saturday and Sunday. Saturday, of course, the trolleys will be supporting the Oyster Festival, taking folks to and from the parking area to the venue. And that has been very well attended in the past. Billy's also received a quote on a new trolley to replace Stormy, which is our next oldest trolley. And we'll be applying for that through a capital grant from the DRPT next year. Just to give you an update on the cigarette tax, first full year of the cigarette tax collections netted the town $73,463 in revenue. That was for the first full fiscal year. By the way, if you didn't notice the number at the bottom, that's for 194,150 packs sold on the island in that fiscal year. And that's from only 7 retail outlets. The Chesapeake Bay Regional Cigarette Tax Board, who collects this money for us, now has 16 members, of which includes the town of Chincoteague and the county of Accomack. And I think we're getting ready at the next meeting to add a couple more members. So that, by the way, council voted last year to allocate all cigarette tax revenues to EMS salaries. So that's being currently done in the town office. Looking at meals and transient occupancy, the data in the table below represent excise tax collections for the month of September, which reflect the level of business by food and lodging establishments in town for the month of August. We're always 1 month behind on this because of the collection lag. Meals taxes for the month exceeded August of 2023 year over year by only 0.1%, although TOT was up by 8%. You might expect that since we seem to be getting no more restaurants, but we do have a few extra lodging establishments. So we're kind of flat on meals right now, still exceeding the 2-year average considerably year over year. And again, looking at the graphs, you want the collections graphs to be going up from left to right, and if we're doing our job right, the percentage budget graph should be nearly flat, which they kind of are, so we're not doing too bad in that respect. Financial report. Summary below reflect the town's overall budget picture as of September 30th. We have a large decrease year over year in general fund revenues. Most of that can be attributed to the fact that one of our quarterly allocations for our U1 grant, which is the grant we use to keep our roads and streets up to date, arrived 1 day late to be included in this, and that's about $250,000. So that's quite a bit of it. If it arrived 1 day earlier, it would have been in this report. The larger expenditures in general government are a result of the mid-year salary increases granted last year to EMS and CPD, so we expected that number to go up year over year. Building and zoning, and you can see the YMCA gym is quite a lot farther along this month than it was during this picture. 45 inspections Mark did last month, at 27 walk-ins, which if you don't know, walk-ins aren't appointments. They aren't done by appointment. They just come in during Mark's office hours, which limits his time in the office and things he can actually accomplish. He did 41 permit plan reviews, which require a lot of his time as well. Total value for the building cost of construction for that month was $1.88 million, and the total building permit fees collected were about $6,700. And there's a permit fee report there. That's all I have. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Thanks.
Mike,
Yes,
can you
ma'am.
go back to where the proposed sidewalks on South Main? Right there. So, we had very casually mentioned this before, but Right, as soon as you pass BB Road,
Mhm.
going this way, on the right-hand side there, a lot of that marsh there is dying, if it's not already dead, for whatever reason. And it seems like it's going more rapid. And I think we need to probably get like a biologist out there or something and see what's going on. That's a lot that's gone away over this summer that I haven't noticed before. And I have had a couple people from the community ask me about it, and I said I would definitely talk about it tonight. But I think we need to find out what's going on
We
down there.
certainly can look into that. And I did not say this during my report, but the sidewalk is being planned as being on the east side of the road for obvious reasons. Most of that road is pitched from east to west, so it runs back in the channel. Putting the sidewalk on the water side of the road would just trap water on the roadway, so we would consider sidewalk only at this point on the east side of the road.
And Jay, did you say you noticed some places on the east side where it looks like it's
A couple of places on east side as well. Yeah.
that's very rapid though down there.
Oh, yeah. I thought VDOT had pulled out of that sidewalk. What is their status? Because I didn't think they weren't going to do anything with this.
We're in a program their term is called Ready, Set, Go, where they prepare the paperwork for us to submit for a grant, and they prepare the paperwork for free for us. After consulting with us, we've had 3 meetings so far, and they actually have done quite a bit of work that I didn't have to provide for them on this design. So when they finish it and we say yes, we'd like to proceed or not, we can go ahead and submit this for a local assistance grant.
Okay.
Anybody else? Thank you, Mike. Moving on. Chief?
Yes, sir. On September 14th, our department held its 20th annual poker run for kids. It's hard to believe it's been 20 years, but we've been doing it successfully for 20 years, and this year, like all the other years, was very successful. So we're excited to use those proceeds and give it back to the community in numerous ways. On September the 16th, Rebecca McJilton graduated Basic Dispatch Academy. Every 2 years, a dispatcher works that's not certified. She has to go by the end of year 2. So she's approaching the end of year 2, which is in December, I believe it was. So we went ahead and got that out of the way because I think this is the last Dispatch Academy class that will graduate this year. So she's done with that, and there's no recertification process with that, so she's good to go. On September 19th, myself and Investigator Barnes attended kind of like a tabletop liaison activity with the U.S. Coast Guard, talked about different various things. And then on September 30th till October 3rd, myself, Jeff Stevens, and Cody Butler attended the Bailey Act Conference in Lynchburg, Virginia. That's what I got.
Any questions?
I have a comment. I was up in New Jersey a couple weeks ago, and as someone who is an admittedly speed demon, they have these, looks like they're digital, not very big, I'd say probably about like this on the side of the road, that says what the speed limit is. And then if you go like 5 miles over that speed limit, blue lights come on it, and it catches your, well, I saw a lot of blue lights, you know. It catches your eye, and believe me, I slowed down. So this big sign that we have sitting over on Bunning Road right now, to me, that is no different, except it's larger than the speed limit signs we got on the posts all over town. Could we look in to see what something like that? I mean, if you had one on Ridge, Main Street, on Willow or whatever, I mean, I don't know what they cost or anything. I'm going back up there in a couple weeks, and I'm going to take a picture of one of them if they don't already have my picture. But it really stopped me. And I noticed here in your report with, 2 citations and 9 warning tickets. I know our police officers can't be everywhere, and I get that. But boy, those things really caught my attention.
Absolutely.
And you
Yeah,
know.
they catch my attention too.
Yeah.
I mean, I admit, going up to Delaware sometimes when you get past Ocean City, they've got the same kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it kind of keeps you in check.
Yeah.
You know, and-
What I liked about these was that, like I said, it was definitely 5 miles or more over the speed limit. It was like a police car was sitting right there. The blue lights went.
Our
and it
old
flashed.
sign used to do that, but now this
Yeah.
new one that we've got doesn't.
And it flashed what speed you were going.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, might be worth looking into. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anybody have anything else, Jay?
Yeah. Chief Greenlee, I was just wondering, I know you said you had a liaison with the U.S. Coast Guard, you talked about different things. Could you just, what's the...
They were just keeping us abreast of, you know, what kind of boats they have and what kind of services that, you know, they were providing and kind of what Washington has. And, you know, I guess Washington is kind of, you know, non-existent now. And Cape Charles is kind of really, you know, taken over at this point. So that's essentially what it was. And then it was just, you know, seeing new faces because their chief has departed and seeing the new chief and just talking, getting to know each other. You know, that's all it was. Virginia State Police were there, their first sergeant and his sergeant. Accomack County Sheriff's Office, Bobby Taylor was there, and David Smolin. So, yeah, that's all it was.
The Marine resources were they there?
No, they were not.
I'm just kind of curious, you know.
Yeah,
Kind of
no, they were
get
not.
involved more and more, you know.
No, I didn't see one of them.
Don't they stay down there? Don't they have an office down there, the Marine Police?
They have both down there.
They have an office too?
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
so.
they have both
I
there.
think they have an office down there, Jeff.
Yeah, they probably didn't need to go to the meeting because they have
They are
interaction
doing it.
every day.
Yeah,
Thank
they're
you.
in there, yeah.
I think I've heard Terry say
Yeah.
that.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Moving on to Public Works, Wes Sparks.
Yes, sir. Good evening. A large focus this month was on the lead and copper inventory that we've been working on. Chris has been working very diligently on this month, but in all reality, he and I have been working on it for the last year and a half, and taking an inventory of every single water service that we have. So his focus here lately has been on inputting the information because the due date for the inventory is October 16th. We will meet that. We're on track to be done probably by this Thursday or Friday. You can enter unknown as an entry in their format, but if you enter too many unknowns, if it becomes an apparent that we didn't want to take time to see what this was, then it does increase your sampling that you have to do. Coincidentally, this month we also had our lead sampling that we do once every 3 years, and we passed that with flying colors, and everything came back fine. So that's what that and the next slide is what the water department has been up to this month. This is a before picture, actually, of the ground storage tank, and that looks a whole lot better now. We've got that whole thing cleaned up and power washed. So we acquired some new implements for our equipment. With it being so long until we can order a new vac truck, we've gotten purchased a broom attachment that goes on the backhoe. It won't get up dust and do the same thing that a vac truck will do. But if we have these high tides and stuff like that, we've got a way to get the road swept off at this point. We also got a brush cutter and a compactor so that when we grade the roads, we'll have a way of compacting the roadway after we grade it.
Will it sweep up candy after the Christmas parade?
Because
you need that.
It'll sweep it to the gutter.
Oh, no.
It has no way of collecting the material it
Right.
sweeps. It just sweeps it off the edge of the
You
road.
may have to stop before you get to the gutter and use the old-fashioned shovel method.
There you go.
Very
Yeah. We may have to borrow a vac truck for that. We'll see. This is a new grate that we had made for the stormwater tank that's down at the traffic circle. Another one of the older one of the two pumps that's in that tank was not functioning and had gone up, so we had to purchase another motor. And we have skinnied up the opening for water to get in there in hopes of stopping trash from getting in the pumps and hopefully get a little bit more longevity out of those pumps. So, next one is the downtown parking lot fence. Guys did a good job of cleaning up that whole fence line around that parking lot. Unfortunately, once they cut back the bushes and the vines and cleaned it all up, it kind of revealed that the fence is not in very good shape. So that may be something that we need to discuss in the future, but for now it's all cleaned off and looks a lot better than it did. We also replaced the decking on the harbor fishing pier. We wanted to go ahead and get that scheduled and done before the kids fishing event that's later this month. So that's all completed and safed up and ready to go for them. So items planned for September, this is just a few things, but we're hoping to connect the new water line on Wildcat Road. The reason that wasn't done this month is primarily because of the focus that we had on this lead and copper that's been going on. Hopefully I'll do an existing condition survey on Taylor Street in preparation for doing some work there. We've got some storm drain improvements we need to do on Poplar Street. I've also got storm drain improvements we're doing at Ocean Breeze and Misty Meadows. We got Miss Utility tickets called in on them, so as soon as they get cleared, we're going to get going on that storm drain work, and of course continue routine maintenance of equipment on the vehicles. Equipment and vehicles. And that's all I've got. If you got any questions,
Denise?
So I got two things, Wes.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if this one's for you or Mike or maybe Chief Greenlee. The Memorial Park bathrooms, they were closed over the weekend?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Because of the high tides, it filled up the tanks and the drain field, and the bathrooms wouldn't function.
Okay. All right, let's work.
How about pictures?
So, I'm not asked to repeat it all, but you're talking about the ditches and everything. You're going to get back to work on them. Is that what you're talking about? Different places.
Mm-hmm.
All right. But you're waiting on Miss Utility to.
Yes,
identify
Miss
some
Utility has
stuff?
been called in. The ticket clears 7 a.m. on Thursday.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you, Wes.
Mm-hmm.
Brian? Emergency Management Services. Glad we're not talking about a hurricane up here.
Good evening. So we'll start out with our EMS division for the month of September. Had the busiest September of record. We were 31 more calls than we had last September at 111. I look back, the busiest September prior to this was 100 calls back in 2012. So September was definitely one for the record books. Hopefully October is not as busy. Let's just put it that way, because we have been running some roads. A couple things that I will point out real quick before we move into the emergency management side of the house. The Narcan Leave Behind program that we discussed last month, that all the staff went through training, like I discussed, we've had Narcan on the truck since I've been in this business over 30 years. It's become kind of this new popular thing, for drug overdoses, but it's really not. However, we've expanded on that, and now a lot of times on some of these drug overdose incidents, individuals don't want to be transported after we do give them our Narcan. And it's highly recommended, especially with some of the drugs that are on the streets these days, that, hey, you should go because the overdose can reoccur. But again, for various reasons, folks do not want to go to the hospital. So we actually have a program now where we can leave Narcan behind. 2 weeks ago, we were able to actually take 2 of our Narcan back to a scene and give it to a family member. So that just makes them feel that much more comfortable, that it's the drug epidemic is certainly something that affects not just the patients, but the families, friends, and so forth. So hopefully we can make the island a lot safer, and again, we've had our first leave behind with that. So that's been very positive. On the emergency management side of the house, of course, we're still weather monitoring. It's still hurricane season. We're coming in nor'easter season and all that kind of good thing. Of course, the big thing of the month of September was medical waste. Thankfully, it occurred in September, not in July, because that would have been a little bit more challenging. But everybody got together, 3 states. We were working that angle pretty hard for the better part of a week. And I also want to thank Ms. Kelly Lewis and also Mr. Talbert for attending a couple of the meetings that I was unable to attend during that week, just to keep us in line, and that way we could get that report out to you every day to let you know what's going on. We're still doing our regional catastrophic planning between Virginia, Maryland, and Delaware, and hopefully have a good exercise put together by the early fall of next year. Also participated in the closed pod EOC activation, kind of a mock stand-up. But every year the Department of Health and Eastern Shore Rural Health goes through a pod exercise. So if there was a community release of, let's say, anthrax, for example, how we could all work together. So we worked through that. If you see there on the screen of that pinpoint moving hurricane, that's Milton that's currently out in the Gulf. I don't know if anybody's been following it. But that is a catastrophic Cat 5 hurricane with winds of 180 mile an hour right now. Now, the thing that people get confused about, they look at that and go, 180, wow, that's going to tear a lot of stuff up. Yeah, it will. It brings a lot of flooding with it. But those winds are about 35, 40 miles outside that center. It's very tight. When you have those super extremely catastrophic storms like that, the actual wind field is very narrow to support that. Unfortunately, there's a good infrared satellite view of the eye. You don't see that very often with hurricanes. Actually, Milton is probably about the 4th strongest on record, coming up to that 180. And unfortunately, it's heading towards our friends, families, and neighbors somewhere around the Tampa area. So a little bit south of where Helene went the other week. They're still obviously cleaning up on those barrier islands, so certainly they're trying to rush to completion a lot of that debris management because, again, that's going to be an environmental nightmare if that stuff makes it back into the Gulf. Milton should make landfall somewhere on the west coast of Florida overnight, Wednesday night into early Thursday morning, with depending on the time of the tide when it does make landfall, it could be some catastrophic tidal flooding that goes along with it. So we need to count our blessings. I know Debbie gave us a little flirt earlier in September, but we've been blessed here on Chincoteague. All of our neighbors to the south, what they're going through, we see it on the news. Virginia's not talked about a lot, so I want to highlight that real quick. There's 9 localities in the Commonwealth that have major disaster declarations going on right now. There are 519 homes that are damaged. 44 were completely destroyed. 161 of those homes had major damage. There are 4 businesses that were completely destroyed, and then 23 of those sustained major damage. But I'm happy to report that the Commonwealth of Virginia and those areas transitioned from an operations posture today to a recovery posture. So they are moving forward at this point. Milton shouldn't pose any risk to the mountainous areas of Commonwealth or even into Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, those areas that have been impacted by Helene. But unfortunately, it is going to skirt right straight across the state of Florida in a very highly populated area. So we need to keep those folks in their thoughts and prayers. With that being said, now's the time to prepare when the sun's shining. I say it every time I get up here, but make sure you have that stuff. Notice a gallon of water per person per day for at least 5 days. You've seen it on the news. There's some places there in North Carolina, they still haven't gotten water until. Granted, we're at a little bit more of an advantage of getting that, but FEMA's not going to be here on day 2 or day 3 to hand water out to you. You have to be self-sufficient. And now is the time to get those non-perishable foods, flashlights, think about your medicine, think about your pets. Get all those things together now while the sun's shining so that if and when we do have to endure something of that nature, you're prepared and you're ready to go. So in summary, EMS has been very busy. The drug kit change, we're still awaiting the DEA paperwork. That's been a little bit of a challenge as they're backlogged because everybody's trying to get it done. We've moved our go live date to the 15th, and right now I'm a little bit worried that we're going to have to push that yet again. Hurricane season continues, and remember, it only takes one, and it only has to be close. It doesn't have to be a direct hit. You've seen what the tides have been doing recently, just from a lunar standpoint, and a little bit of northeast onshore flow. So, again, prepare now. I'll entertain any questions.
I got one. Can you go back to the infrared of that hurricane?
Sure.
So, up there in the, almost looks like it's forming another storm with another eye. You see that too?
So yeah, up on the top
Yeah,
right-hand corner.
yeah.
So most of your larger hurricanes, if you go back in history and either pull up radar data or read some of the synopsis, they develop these little circular nature motions up in that northeast quadrant. Remember, every hurricane, the east and the northeast quadrant is the worst. For this particular hurricane, as it comes to the coast, it's going to come directly in with that eastward motion. So it's going to bring to the right at the eye and to the south of that eye is going to bring the highest water levels. So that's, again, you only have to be close. You don't have to be right under. And certainly north of that, you're still going to have some severe effects as the storm goes, because you can see as the storm spins counterclockwise, it's going to be pushing water to the north, well out in front of the storm. So Tampa Bay, Port Charlotte, places like that. But yeah, big storms like that develop another little circular motion up in that northeast quadrant.
I was just curious. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
Brian, did anybody determine where the medical waste came from?
No, not yet.
I guess, like you said, I know it's easier for me, and I was the same way, blame our northern part of New York, New Jersey. But talking to other people, might be a closer body than what we think, how people dispose of. I mean, it's in the year 2024, it's crazy that medical waste is disposed in the ocean that close to us. So it's not the first time it's happened. And like you're saying, if it happened at a different time of the year, it would have been very costly to Chincoteague, Ocean City. I mean, it wasn't that far away, but I mean, but it's not the first time it's happened. I just, I think we should pin down who is still doing it.
Well, there's an ongoing investigation, so hopefully they will definitely find out and be able to penalize the party or parties involved.
Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, Chris.
So I believe the opioid lawsuit settlement funds,
Mhm.
did we try to get any of that? Because didn't that come through the states and then the counties were supposed to apply?
So those funds is what's managing the Narcan Leave Behind program.
So it's part of the funds.
Part of the
trickling
funds
down.
to get that going. Yep.
That's it.
All right. Thank you, Brian. Next up on the agenda is committee reports, starting off with Public Works. Ms. Ellen?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. On September the 4th, Public Works Committee met. Mr. Parks has already gone over some of the things that has been done, like down at the harbor. We also discussed the spring paving and a water line project, which we were looking at Taylor Street, doing some work there on the water line, and the drainage is collapsing out at the Main Street end of Taylor Street. So the scope of this would be to replace the water line, the storm drain, mill and pave the road, and redo the sidewalks. And one of our suggestions was to have at least one side full of sidewalks. There is a lot of people that use Taylor Street for walking, most especially with all the traffic. You get away from Maddox Boulevard, it's rough. So this is what we're looking at in the springtime. Let's see what else. I think that was pretty well. It's in your packet. It's about the same thing that Mr. Parks was already informed us.
All
Any
right. Thank you.
questions?
Question?
Are
Thank you, Ms.
there any grants for sidewalks? What's Commonwealth?
None that I found. I'm sure there's some more out there. I haven't found any for the state of Virginia. We can use our U1 grant that we receive every year for sidewalks. However, and we do at times. But the town has a long-standing policy of providing sidewalks in front of private property at a 50-50 cost share. And I've sent letters to all the residents of Taylor Street asking if anyone would be interested, that anyone that doesn't have sidewalks now would be interested in getting sidewalks. And I know the letters showed up because I did have a comment from one person that already has sidewalks, but no one has sent it back in requesting or saying they were interested in getting a sidewalk. So it appears that anything we do, we'd have to foot the bill for on Taylor Street.
Well, and like everybody else that rides around Chincoteague, there are just so many places that would benefit from sidewalks. North Main Street, you know, there's a lot of bike traffic up that way and walking traffic that you see, and, you know, there are several places. Ridge Road, of course, is another place, and it'd be awesome if we could find some kind of money to, yeah, even one side. It'd be awesome to find some money to be able to do those projects without the town encumbering the cost or the, you know, people in front of people's houses too, but anyway, just a question.
Anything else? Thank you, Ms. Allen. Moving on to the Harbor Committee. We met on the 6th of this month of September. Couple of things were discussed. One of them was a no-wake zone. We thought we had a no-wake zone on the east side, and found out from the state that we don't. So we're having to reapply for that one. But this new one is going to go from in the vicinity of the water side all the way to Lewis Creek. So if you're in town at the boat ramp or docking at the town dock, that'll hopefully mitigate some of that wake that people have been seeing here lately. We've been getting complaints from working watermen that are tied up to the fish dock, you know, that their boats are being damaged by the wakes as they go by. So hopefully we'll get a no wake zone there. We also discussed the Kids Fishing Day, which is October 20th. But that was about it for the harbor. Any questions?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
down at the harbor, if you put in more more boardwalk on the, I guess you call it the, over near the fuel tanks, is that
Mhm.
new too?
Yes.
Is it?
The new fuel, new sidewalk?
New sidewalk, the part of the deck where the walkway is.
We replaced part of the boardwalk in front of the fuel pumps, yes, we did.
Okay.
With the lumber that was left over from the project on the other side.
Gotcha.
So do you plan on going all the way out to the water or no?
We will eventually
Oh.
replace all of that. We had some lumber left over from that project, and wanting to use it effectively, we put
It
it in
looks nice.
the worst of the area in front of the fuel dock, because that's one of the most well-traveled areas. in the
Right.
park.
And there's some areas that don't have that at all, but that was by design. They didn't want it in front of their spots.
Mr. Mayor,
Yep.
did I read in here somewhere, I'm looking for it, about something about the fuel pumps? And I've gone on about this before, but, you know, it's hard enough on a high tide, on a low tide, getting that hose down there in your boat.
Mm-hmm.
But, I've just taking my gas can and getting gas, because that little clip will not hold that hose. Nothing will, you gotta shove a rock in it.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
The issue with those reels is that they have springs on them that don't make the ratchet engage the sprocket.
Right.
We just received a whole box of springs to replace these with.
Can I have one to keep in my pocket?
We'll be doing it in the next few days, and they'll all be working, and we've bought extras in case one of them goes down or breaks. They seem to break.
Yeah, because they're special order springs. You
Yeah.
just can't go to the store and get
So
them.
it is very difficult without those ratcheting reels working correctly to get your boat fueled. So we've got a good supply of them now. We intend to keep those working.
Well, it's like I said, it's just hard anyway. But if you release that thing whips around and takes you out, it'll hurt you bad.
Yeah, be careful with that. That's something that's not adjustable.
No. Good.
Just constantly needing work. All right, moving on to Ordinance Committee. Jay?
On September 12th, the ordinance committee meeting, and we discussed, I think it was like 5 items. First of which was the temporary sign limitations. The meeting, the temporary sign ordinance was reviewed. The ordinance does give size, location, removal of signs. However, it was silent on the time of the replacement. The committee proposed to add to the ordinance the following inclusion. Signs may not be placed or erected earlier than 30 days prior to the first day in which a vote may be legally cast for the subject election. So this ordinance was advertised, will go public to a public hearing on October 17th, and also this will we'll have further discussion on this during the planning commission meeting tomorrow evening. This other item on the agenda was the metal detection ordinance. And the committee made recommendations to forward to council an ordinance addition for metal detectors and geocaching on public property. And at our workshop meeting on September 19th, council approved the addition of the ordinance with the inclusion of relative proclamation. Next was a discussion on the mural ordinance. The committee agreed that the governing body should have the opportunity to approve future large murals with a conditional use permit. The first approval by the planning commission, then by the council with specific guidance, and both of which are done with a public hearing on the conditional use permit. The other item was just a review item. Committee discussed a little bit about it before. It was the scooter and electric bike ordinance. And that seems like it's continuing as far as, our real concern is just the emphasis on public safety. See electric bikes, more so scooters, all over, on and off the sidewalks and all that. So we're still having discussion on that. And the last item was to consider a speed limit reduction ordinance. Continuing discussion from some time ago regarding speed limit reduction. The state in May of this year relaxed the capability of municipalities to reduce the speed limit in areas with limits of 25 miles per hour. And it was felt that public safety downtown was concerning, considering we've got 7 crosswalks, 4 eating establishments, Robert Reed Park, medical center, and a number of shops. And it was felt that a 15-mile-per-hour speed limit would be appropriate, but however, discussions are still ongoing. That's pretty much all.
Any questions? Denise?
Not necessarily a question. Ms. Pat brought up a very good point, Bill, about the political signs. That we should change that to say political campaign signs, because if you could get into a real mess with political opinions on a sign all over town.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something we could talk about before this goes, or? I mean,
We can address
that was a very good point.
Planning commission meeting as well tomorrow evening.
Isn't it tied to a campaign? Isn't it tied to an election now?
Yeah.
The intention was to have it tied to an election, and I'll check the wording, because that is a very good point. If the wording doesn't support that, then we can certainly change the wording. This issue goes before the planning commission tomorrow night. It has to go the route of change in zoning regulation, because the sign ordinance is a part of zoning. So it'll go before the planning commission tomorrow night, who will chop on that, make recommendations. They'll bring it to the council on October 17th. We've advertised it for October 17th, a public hearing on October 17th, at which time the council can take recommendations from the planning commission and either approve them, deny them, change them, and move on with this. But if there is an issue with the definition, we'll take a look at it tomorrow night, and we'll fix that before it comes to council on the 17th.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right. Thank you, Jay. Moving on. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from our September 3rd and our September 19th workshops.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next up is to consider the downtown speed limit change. Mr. Talbert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As Councilman Savage was saying, the ordinance committee met and did review speed limit downtown. The recommendation from the ordinance committee was to, I'm sorry, let me pull this up correctly. There we go. At a September 12th meeting, the ordinance committee reviewed and considered the reduction of the speed limit in the downtown area from 2015. As Councilman Savage was saying, the state recently, the General Assembly recently lowered the threshold for reducing speed limits by a municipality. Prior to their action, reducing the speed limit at all required an engineering study on the zone that you were talking about, or that you were considering reducing the speed on. That limitation for municipalities that want to reduce the speed limit completely within their jurisdiction, as long as the speed limit is currently 25 and they lower it no lower than 15, can be done without an engineering study. All the other hoops still have to be jumped through, and that is notification of your intent or of the passage of your ordinance, as well as the proper notification that speed limit has changed, proper signage, and all those things still. And the list is long but not unconquerable. This is something that the committee proposed for the council's, the full council's consideration.
Discussion?
Yeah, I got
Go ahead, Chris.
I was unable to attend the ordinance committee, and having some time to think about this, I was not sure I'm really in favor of this 100%. Even though we have the ability to do it, the state's given us the ability to do it. I don't think that necessarily means we need to do it. I don't know if I've seen the empirical evidence presented that necessitate that we actually do this. I know we haven't got any kind of studies or traffic reports or speed reports. And then also, that whole downtown revitalization area, when they did that, if I'm not mistaken, I had just first moved back when all this was happening, I believe there was great consideration given to the fact that they designed that area to reduce the speed naturally with those little bump out pieces that are currently present.
Like the one in front of Shorestop.
That Miss Allen likes so much, her little personal bump out. But that is, the area already has the slowing down or calming effect. I think they're called calming zones or something like that. So I just wasn't sure, is it worth us changing our speed limit? It's really nice on Island to be able to say the speed limit is 25. It's 25 now, you're going to say, well, except for a certain area. And I'm not sure it's necessary. I guess that's what I don't see a lot of evidence. Was any evidence presented to that we were having a problem down there, or does anybody?
No, I don't believe so. And I was in attendance, Councilman Savage, Councilwoman Biden. I don't think we discussed any particular events that led to this.
Right.
We had talked about it before, a few years ago. That was back before the state changed that the town could have the authority to change it. And they were going to require a study. I do hear quite a few complaints about speeding through there myself. And also, and I believe Sonny had brought it up at maybe a public safety meeting, and I've run into this part a lot too, especially there in front of the library. If you're heading south and here's the library, that crosswalk right there, somebody's actually got to be right in the middle of it almost before you can see somebody going across. Given it's what we call in a historic area down there, I'm in favor of that change to reducing that in that area because there are so many things happening down there. But I do hear a lot of complaints about speeding through town. If you're sitting in Don's right by the window, they're probably only going about 30, but still 30's too much.
And we've heard, so like with crosswalks, I don't know, we used to have middle delineators in the road, which I'm in favor of those. I don't think they would hurt to put delineators on the crosswalk in the middle. I know we had problems with people hitting them, but that's an excellent way to slow it down. We've also heard a lot of complaints about speed, and when we placed an officer on the south end of the island, I believe, 63 readings, we've had 3 tickets, greatest at 40 miles an hour.
Yes, sir.
So we hear a lot, but I don't know. I'd like to see a little more evidence, I guess, before I think we need to purposely take a zone. And then also, you're taking it all the way out to Jester, which that's going to get a lot of people. Because you usually, if you naturally go through town now, usually as soon as you get to the firehouse, you kind of think you're free and clear. And you're still making them go right till Jester, which is pretty wide open territory there.
Mm-hmm.
I hope
No
that
crosswalks.
I hope that doesn't become a trap of sorts for people, going forward.
Right, and I do believe the last time you were on the force, but you weren't chief. The last time this was brought up, we did take the camera down there, and it recorded the speeds. And I think the most we had recorded down there was somebody doing 35 or maybe 40
Right.
once.
And it
Um,
was probably during the time of day where there's not a lot
Not
of
a lot
traffic
of people there.
Because
And
naturally during the day, the volume of these cars actually decreases.
right, and I can see 6 months out of the year, the traffic is not an issue in town. I'm like Chris. I mean, I think we're kind of creating a problem. Whereas if you're sitting on the sidewalk and a car goes by you, you perceive it to be speeding. The radar guns don't lie; they're not speeding. And I think we're creating a problem, maybe a precedent. How about if people on Maddox in the middle of the summer said, "Hey, we're having all these people cross Maddox Boulevard in the middle of summer. Are we going to make it a 15-mile-an-hour speed limit from the bridge, all the way to the other bridge? I mean, it'd take you an hour to get to the beach, for Christ's sake." And that's, unfortunately, I think you do set that precedent. And I just don't see it, as a problem going through town anymore. I was just there the other day doing a TV interview, and I mean, people were naturally slowing down just on their own as they were going through town. You could tell the cars were actually slowing down on their own with no, anything. And believe me, when I was a kid, I got hit running across the street, going from the grocery store to mom's car. Scared the driver to death, but it's possible. If you dart out in front of something, you might get hit. But I don't see it. I think it's. I don't think it's something that's needed. But let's just go ahead, G. Wayne.
When was the last time you had a trailer out of town?
Probably a few years.
Do you remember what the average speed was, or is it just too long ago?
It's too long ago.
Because I would have thought, like I said, you get. I know you've done it before, but like you say,
As you can see, it's been moved in various spots here now, and then I had some trouble gathering the data off of it. Hopefully I get it right this time. Hopefully the software cooperates with me. But it's awfully hard to keep up with all that data and stuff.
Well, could you do it again so we actually know what the average speed going through town is? And if you got it back fixed?
Yeah, I'll let you know. I'm getting ready to actually collect it tomorrow and get the data off the USB. So hopefully, what's on the phone.
And do it for 1 or 2 weeks. I mean, that way you actually know what the average speed going through town, high and low, and what the average is. That way we'll.
Right.
Thank you.
I think that given that there's 7 crosswalks in town, and that there's so many pedestrians downtown. Now, again, the admitted speed demon here, when I go through town, I do go slower. Because I know that there's a lot of people walking around. I'm used to it. I'm used to seeing people down there. But you've got people that are coming here to visit that are not used to it. And there's so many things going on downtown, and with 7 crosswalks that a lot of people do use, but there's a lot of people that don't. It's only going to take one person going 30 or 40 that's going to crack somebody, and it's going to be trouble. And thank God it's not happened yet. But, downtown should be an area where people are or should be aware of going slower in one way or the other. And I know it funnels in, and the bump outs do some of that, but if we have an opportunity to make something safer down there, then I think we should look into it. And it means, or instead of doing that, get one of those flashing blue light things down there.
Commissioner,
Go ahead, Jim.
I'd just like to kind of get on board with Denise. I've seen incidences where, I'm going down the street 20 miles an hour, and especially like was mentioned earlier regarding the concern for Mumford Street going across the Mumford Park. People away from here, they realize it's crosswalks. They don't look. They jet right out, and you cannot see them there. Also, just tying in with our one of the other things we were looking at is the scooter and electric bike issue. I mean, downtown, we don't want them on the sidewalks, you know. They're going through town, they're riding through town on scooters or, you know, electric bikes and, you know, on the side and so forth. That's great.
How you gonna enforce that? Because a lot of those scooters and a lot of those bikes can go faster than 15.
Yeah.
I mean, how you gonna
Well,
put the radar gun on them?
I'm just talking about the safety issue itself
Right.
more than anything.
And I don't deny the safety issue, but is this our best move for the safety issue? Would we be better off trying to do, you know, crosswalk indicator signs in the middle of the road? You know, they're fairly effective and you see them more commonly versus lowering the speed limit to accommodate crosswalks. I don't know. I'd like to see a little more study
I'm
into it.
completely in favor of the delineators there, you know. I noticed that they weren't out there as often this summer as they normally are.
Well, the problem is that when they redid it all, they narrowed it up so much,
Mhm.
and we've got, you know, bigger cars now,
Well, you got
that you're running
campers,
over. And the campers, they're running over them and things like that.
Go ahead, Ms. Ellen.
Is there any type of paint that you could put over the crosswalks that would brighten it like up to Snow Hill? When you're coming up to them, you see them. They are bright. I don't know what type of paint. Our bricks are subdued down. So they probably don't even pay attention that they are crosswalks.
There's a concrete border outside the
Mhm.
bricks on each side of the sidewalk that you could possibly paint.
And at nighttime, it's not well lit in some areas down there.
Just a thought. I preached that to Harvey, but it didn't happen.
I'll throw out a motion to table for more data, then it gets a second.
However, paint's cheap. I think we can do that right away.
I don't know.
Well, we do it.
Each one of us paintbrush.
We do have a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to table this until we get more information. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank y'all. Moving on. Mayor and council comments. Start to my left, Jay.
Pass. No comment.
All righty.
Again,
Jing
let's
Ling.
keep our southern neighbors in our prayer and all the people that's helping them and safety for the people that's in the next storm's path. And everybody's feeling under the weather and everybody's taken care of. Just pray for a hedge of protection.
Thank you, Gene. Vice Mayor?
Yeah, I wanted to say that last, what was it, last month when we gave money to the charities? It was last month, wasn't it? Yeah. We were able to pass some money down to some of the organizations in the community that really help out, volunteer organizations, 501c3s. And I didn't say anything then, but it came to my mind afterwards that I think that was kind of neat to see because, you know, in the summertime things do get a little hectic and it's very busy, but, you know, the extra income that comes in is not just staying, you know, for the town, for the operation of the town. You know, we're able to pass some of that stuff down into the community so that some of these groups can use that to contribute to making it a little bit better around here as well. So I wanted to point that out, and that was kind of neat to see. That's all I got.
Thank you. Denise?
Yeah, I got a couple things. First, to Donna's comments tonight about Fish and Wildlife. I went over there that day for that, and I asked two specific questions. One of them was, and if anybody recalls being on the Beach Access Committee many years ago, Donna, I think you were on that committee, were you? We had hammered down, and I think Jack Tar would remember this too, we had hammered down on them, if the beach moves north, are you going to maintain that south end? So my answer to that question the other day was no. So that south end is not going to be maintained. It's going to be able to wash over and do what it does that could possibly, in my opinion, take up and maybe destroy valuable shellfish grounds. And the other thing is, we already have a problem with the inlet that we can't get anything done with now. And I do blame that on Fish and Wildlife as well, because they don't want anything over there to help with anything. So, coupled with possible washovers that that sometimes band-aid themselves back together, but how about if they don't? How about if something powerful comes to here, that it doesn't put itself back together? So, we're ending up with that, which could be a disaster for the south end of Chincoteague and parts of East Side and things like that. The other question I asked was, what is the closest parking spot to the beach? When somebody pulls up there, the closest parking spot to the beach, before your toes hit the sand, is 100 yards. I said, and how about the last parking spot? Quarter of a mile. So, people that are coming here to experience the beach, things like that, they are not going to get the same beach experience. And it's not just about parking. On a high tide up there, right now, you can't even get a chair out sometimes in some places. She brings up a lot of good points. What is the relevance right now of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service on Assateague Island, Virginia? I go over there as frequently as probably you do and a lot of other people in here do. They've made it very clear that, they really don't want people over there. The previous manager that I sat in here with years ago basically didn't want horses in there. Told me that they're a non-native over there, and I said, well, we are too. You're non-native. We're all non-native to it, but we're here. But, I just feel like that they did not pay attention whatsoever to their neighbor, to Chincoteague, to the people here. It went through Senate hearings. It went through all kinds of surveys, you name it. And everything fell on deaf ears. So you let the south end get washed out, and you let people say, I'm not trudging 100 yards or a quarter mile to the beach, toting little Joey and my sunscreen and my tents and this, that, and the other. And they're going to say it's not worth it anymore. They just do not care about what it is going to do for Chincoteague. And Donna brings up very good points about maybe we should ask them what they, are they beneficial to the place anymore? They destroy everything that they stand for. Everything that they stand for, I've watched them. They destroy it. And it's very discouraging. The other thing I wanted to say is one of the town's longtime employees, Marion Adams, is home. Some people in this room know her. She's home. She's holding her own, but just please keep her in your prayers. She's still got a long way to go, and I'm hoping she's going to get there. And other than that, I just want to thank everybody, all of our employees, for everything they do every day. I know I grit and grind. I'm in Mike's ear all the time and stuff, but just when we got to get some stuff done, then we just got to get it done. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Allen?
No, thank you, sir.
All righty. Be prepared. I got a long list. All right. I just want to point out today's October 7th, and we just need to keep our friends over in Israel in our thoughts. It's been a year since that attack took place. Also, we have to think about all those poor folks down in western North Carolina, up in the hills and the hollers. And it was a good thing last week when the community of Chincoteague got together, bought water and necessities and whatnot through the work of Roger and Brittany Adams over at Adams Auto. They collected it, and we loaded it on to a trailer that got taken to Pocomoke and loaded on to another trailer, and I think they had a convoy of like 7 or 8 semis taking material down there to North Carolina. So hopefully those guys out there will pull it together if they can get some help. I know it's devastating when whole towns are gone. This weekend I had the honor of going to the Navy Ball. Speaking of neighbors, the Navy is back in this area. I mean, they were here during the war, World War II. Now they're back, and they do a lot that we don't realize what's going on. And those men and women do a great job. We just need to keep them in their thoughts because they're here for a short time, then they're all around the world doing their jobs. Got to keep her in our thoughts. All those people down in Florida, I can't imagine what those communities are preparing for and going through right now. I just couldn't do it. We also have the Oyster Festival coming up this weekend. I know that's going to be a big thing. Fingers crossed for weather. I don't mean to. Maybe we'll have a sunny day for once. And I'm just going to leave it with be careful what you ask for. Sometimes it's, you got to be careful. And it pains me, but I'm going to say it. Roll Tide. All right, I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session. Let me see, right verbiage. Yeah, it's on the screen. But in accordance with 2.2-3711A3 Code of Virginia for the consideration of purchasing property.
Motion.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.